So one of the greatest things about creative finance or seller finance is that you can create your own terms, very flexible.
Let's talk about creative financing, because I think that's something I was actually exploring this space of creative financing last year. And the reason why I got into it, so initially I got into, real estate, looking at the traditional financing, putting a mortgage on the property. And then last year we started, talking about this inflation happening, that the interest rates are going to go up. And I started wondering, like, what were people doing in the 70s, 80s when the interest rates were super high? Like, how were people buying assets? And then I actually stumbled upon Pace Morby as well. And so I figured I'll join his community. So I wanted to learn creative financing primarily so that I could apply it to, my business and see how we could buy properties creatively. But I would, since you guys are sort of the kings in California of, creative financing, you're like the, leaders over there of the Subto community. I would love to hear your perspectives on, some examples let's talk about some basic ways of how creative financing works and some unique examples which you think were like really head scratchers for you guys.
Creative finance, I've said this before, like a piano has 88 keys. There's a finite number of keys, yet the number of songs you could create is infinite. The same is really true with creative finance. There's a finite number of building blocks, but it's how you arrange those building blocks based on the particular needs of the seller and the situation. That's where the artistry and the creativity come in. So on the very basic and simple, let's say you have a house, it's worth $300,000 and you have a $240,000 mortgage at 3% interest and 30 years left. We might buy your property at full ask price, give you a small down payment, and take over, buy that property subject to the existing mortgage, where we now take over the responsibility for those payments. And the difference between the mortgage, the down payment, and the purchase price, that would be what's called the seller's equity. And to the extent that that's a significant number, we would then create a seller finance second position note. So the seller is upgraded from an owner to a lender. They become the bank in second position, and we are making payments for them every single month. And so they get their equity paid out over a number of years, sometimes at an interest rate. And that's a very common way to do things. That's pretty vanilla, pretty easy. We did a deal last summer in San Jacinto. In fact, Pace wrote about it in his book. It was a very complex deal. That was an interesting one for us. It took us a long time. There was a defunct gas station and broken down buildings, and how we put that together, there was a lot of different things involved. So really, the sky's the limit with this on how you can put these deals together. But again, it really starts with, what is that seller looking to achieve? What is important to them? How, when, where, and when? And how can we create a solution that is a win for both them, for us, and our financial partners?
Very cool. Yeah, and I think a lot of times there's this, at least I also had this kind of misconception. And I know I've seen Pace Morby talk to Grant Cardone on a video and talk about how, the title to a property is so different from the note that the bank has on the property, right? So they're actually two different things. So you can actually transfer the title without transferring the mortgage, and that's what we're talking about as subject to, wherein somebody else is making the mortgage payments versus, the title may go to somebody else.
That is absolutely correct. The title or the deed, the ownership of the home is different than the ownership of the mortgage. So typically banks lend people money to buy mortgages, and they become what's called a lien holder. They become the mortgage holder of that property, but you would own the property.
Right.
And you're making payments to the bank. So two separate things.
Yep. And then the other thing is, of course, seller financing, which pretty much is that somebody owns a property outright and they become the bank, and they can they set the terms. And I think what's fascinating about that is that it runs independent of the mortgage market, right? Like, you can set any rate with a seller who is seller financing, irrespective of what the world is doing.
And it's a benefit because now they can in a sense, they are competing with the banks. If the banks are charging high 6s, 7s, you as a seller might charge me 3%. And so now I'm getting this property at a significantly discounted rate off of what I would have to get if I went to the capital markets and got a mortgage. And so we are able to leverage the existing equity in a seller's house through seller finance, and in so doing create a win for them, because now they're getting income they would have not have received otherwise, and we are getting capital at a significantly discounted rate without having to put 20% down, show our FICO score, jump through hoops. It's a win-win for both sides.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it removes so much of the red tapeism involved, like so much of the paperwork that's involved with the bank looking at it, and this X, Y, and Z happening is basically a transaction between two people.
Also, one of the greatest things about creative finance or seller finance is that you can create your own terms, very flexible as far as, for example, you can say no payments for 2 years, or you can say you can hike the interest rate every 5 years, something like that, to make it more favorable to the seller. So there's so many different ways that you can structure it, and have deferred payments, have available interest, on tiered basis, to make it work for both parties. We're actually negotiating a 8-unit in Clear Lake, California, and we're going back and forth in negotiations. But the seller, what's most important to the seller is the 1.2 purchase price and $5K per month. That's what he wants, because he's making about $9K per month in cash flow right now. So he's saying he wants $5K minimum per month. So our first offer, that kind of offer right now is $4,000 per month right now, and only $40,000 down, if I remember. So that's a pretty small down payment. You see all the free and clear. All right, so $40K down and $4K a month was our initial offer, or our last kind of offer. So I said in the last call, what if we started at, $3K per month, and then maybe in year 2 we'll bump it up to $4K per month, and then year 3 we'll start paying $5K per month. And he seemed more open to it, right, at that point. And I figured in 2 or 3 years, the rents will go up by then, right? So paying $5K per month shouldn't be that bad by then, right? So it's all about having conversation with the seller and seeing what they're looking to accomplish, what is important to them. And with seller finance, there's so many things that you can do with seller finance, because you can structure it in your own way, which is subject to, you already had the loan in place, right? So you're going to have to make payments to that mortgage. But if you're working directly with the seller, there's so many different ways that you can structure it, which is beautiful.
Right, and then you can stack one on top of the other, right? Like if you have somebody has some equity in the, like Mitch was saying, you can make that seller finance. You can have a seller carry back on that, and there are so many ways of doing it. And that's why I think it's called creative financing. And that's one of the things that I really love about it, is that the fact that you can really literally get creative with how you're going to do the deal. Like it can be a win-win situation for both parties.
100%.
Yeah, and here's another benefit that's really important to note. A lot of the times we are working with homeowners that are behind 3, 4, 6 months on their mortgage payments, and the banks are coming after them with foreclosure and an auction. And as you know, when that happens, that ruins their credit. And so oftentimes what we will do is we will come in and make up the arrears. The arrears are the missed payments. So we make the bank whole, and we make the mortgage start performing again. I mean, remember, the banks are in the business of performing mortgages. They like collecting checks. They're not in the real estate business. They're in the performing mortgage business. And by doing this, so let's say we have a house. If it goes to foreclosure, the bank has to foreclose. Think of all the costs involved, the people's lives who are, financially ruined. And then the bank has to, start all over again. So we can come in, make up those arrears, give the seller some money, help their credit out, and then also get into a property that makes sense for us too. So it's a win-win-win all around.
Very cool. How did you guys start working together? Because I know both of you joined SUP too, but what kind of made you guys start together and start your business as partners?
We lose, right?
Yeah, and take that on. So I think it was January of 2021. So maybe about 8 months after we had joined SUP 2, I had a solid appointment in San Diego, which is nearby Mitch. And of course, back then, Mitch and I were already leaders of the SUP 2 community. And I had never met Mitch in person yet. So I said, why don't you come to, the appointment that I have in San Diego? And so, yeah, sure, I'll come. So we went and we met in person finally. I think we might have met before that. I'm sorry. We might have met before that. But I'm tagged along to the appointment. And this is my appointment. This is my seller, right? And I'm prepared. I'm driving from LA to San Diego. I'm thinking about what I'm going to say to the seller. It's a big deal. It's like a $3 million deal. So I'm thinking about what I'm going to say. I'm still new to business and stuff like that. And then I get there with Mitch. And then Mitch just took away the whole appointment. He report with the seller. He crushed it. Like they had a little bromance thing going on. I'm sitting there between them and then just talking, I feel like in my own head, what I'm saying? And I think that's a bad deal, what I'm saying? I'm like, wow, this guy's really good, what I'm saying? I never liked him, so that. So I said, let's just party together, I said, your strength is my weakness, my weakness is his strength, right? So, and vice versa, right? So, I said, let's just partner up and work together. We're also leaders of some too, anyway. So, a lot of people come to us for help. So rather than us not competing, but, rather than, saying, oh, I go to Mitch or I go to Richard, let's just work together, let's partner up so they can come to us as a team, and we are here to help the whole community. So that's how everything evolved by Mitch's master report building. So that was amazing. Yeah. We partner business.
And it's true. We complement each other, and which is really good. And we're focusing on more on that and working together. But we share the same moral compass. We implicitly trust one another. I know how he's going to treat people. I don't even have to question it. I know the kind of a man he is at his core, and we share those things. We call each other brother from another mother because, we think the same way. So, and that's beautiful. And so now we're exploring, how do we start spreading out our wings and doing more? We've done a lot together, but we realize there's only so much we can do when we're doing everything together. And what we're trying to do is, Rich, you do this, Mitch, you do this, and putting that together with a good communication system so we can move it forward.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, Rich and I, and we built the Southern California Accountability Group. It's well over 600 people. It's a very, very tight community with a lot of great people. And, we started that from zero.
I love that, man. I love that. And, the fact that you guys looked at collaboration, which I think is fairly prevalent throughout Sub 2, which is one thing that I'm amazed about that community, is that, everybody wants to collaborate, not necessarily compete. And the fact that, this was not a small deal for you, Rich. And then despite Mitch schmoozing the seller over, he said, hey, how can we work together, rather than saying, hey, damn, he took over my seller. That shows character, man. That really shows how it's the way you think, and aligning those is so important when you're partnering up with someone.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when I saw him, in person, kind of put in a rapport with the seller, and I saw that he was very strong in rapport, but you saw it too. I mean, every time he's on the phone, and even when I go out to lunch with him or breakfast or something, he's making the research staff and stuff like that. I'm like, wow, this guy's a beast when it comes to rapport building. I don't know how he does it. I'm like, teach me. He's so good, man. He's amazing.
Yeah, and it's amazing because
use email.
It's about complimenting it. That's what I was going to say, right? Like, there are certain things about our businesses that one person will be really good at. For example, even in our team, it took us a lot of time and a lot of thought went into how we would structure it such that everybody stays in their lane and everybody's focusing on their zone of genius rather than stepping over the other boundaries. Having said that, it's important to have that respect and that trust that the other person is going to do their job, and the fact that the other person is going to deliver. So I think that's so important when you're forming teams, especially when you're kind of trying to scale. It becomes a very, very important aspect because one person cannot do everything.
This is a very complex business. You can do this alone. It's going to be very lonely. It's going to be very challenging. And when you have multiple people and a team, you're going to have complementary skill sets and you're going to have support. And that makes it a lot more pleasurable, and you can get a lot more done with a lot less stress.
Very cool. How can people get in touch with you, if they want to start in this creative financing world, or they have something that they want to, sell creatively? How can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can follow us on my Instagram is at Richard E. Knowles at Gmail. Not Gmail, that's my email too. But my Instagram is Richard E. Knowles. So follow me on Instagram, DM me, and I'm happy to help anybody with anything that you need, whether it's business related or personal stuff, mindset, software engineering, technology, AI, anything. I'm happy to help. I'm pretty open book.
Facebook, Instagram, Mitch Roy, Roye. I'm the handsome guy in the tuxedo in the pictures. Whatever people need. If they're in the Sub2 community, they can reach out to us. We're always happy to help.
Very cool. Thank you so much, guys, for joining me. This was a fun conversation with you guys. It was lovely catching up with you again.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
All right, guys, if you haven't done already, please go check out my free video series on how to do due diligence on operators and on deals before investing in them. It's called Real Estate RX for Passive Investors, and it's available at www.rerxcourse.com.